Welcome to Don't Scare the Newbies, a podcast where we talk kink, raw and unfiltered. I'm Kirizal, a lifestyle submissive in a 24/7 dynamic who likes their kink heavy, intense, and scary.
And I'm kirizal's dominant who knows how to deliver all of the above.
And today we're going to be... I had something really good in my head. Just give me 2 seconds. And today we're doing our first of hopefully many kinky movie nights. She's a virgin who doesn't know what a butt plug is. Bah! For fuck's sake!
No.
So good. And today we're going to be having hopefully the first of many kinky movie nights. She's a virgin who doesn't know what a butt plug is. He's a millionaire who thinks that communication is for the vanillas. I stumbled again. Fuck.
You did.
It's when I've got it too specific in my head, I can't do it. I'm not good with scripts. And today we're going to be having the first of hopefully many kinky movie nights. She's a virgin who doesn't know what a butt plug is, and he's a billionaire who has no thoughts in his brain.
Oh no. You got this.
And today we're going to be having the first of hopefully many kinky movie nights. She's a virgin who doesn't know what a butt plug is, and he's a billionaire who thinks communication is for the vanillas. We are, of course, talking about 50 Shades of Grey.
Who takes their t-shirt off like that? And I suddenly realised I can't read my writing. Oh no, I have 3 pages of notes and I do not understand any of it. But that's fine.
That's fine.
So yes, we are talking about 50 Shades of Grey. We forced ourselves to watch it.
The worst thing is I've watched it voluntarily before. I watched it for fun.
Yeah, I am judging you a little bit.
Yeah.
For that. I've never seen it before. This is my first exposure to 50 Shades. Haven't seen the films, haven't read the book.
No, and I'll confess I haven't read the books either. I've read some snippets from the books.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about it purely from the perspective of the movie. If we have things to say about the plot line and the characters and stuff, I guess we are talking a little bit about the original choices of the original writer as well, but we can't comment on differences between the books and the movies. From what I know, most of what was cut from the book was a lot of extra sex scenes that were quite repetitive, because the book is essentially smut.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And a lot of... because the book is I think it's written in the first person, but it's definitely from Anna's perspective.
Right.
And her internal monologue apparently is, whether you like it is a matter of taste. She's an interesting character.
Very diplomatically put.
Yeah.
Right.
And I haven't read it, so I don't know if it would be to my taste or not.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure I know whether it would be to my taste or not.
Fair.
If I'm being honest. Although I don't read smut. I am not a smut connoisseur.
I read a lot of smut, which is why it's in some ways, I guess, quite surprising I haven't read 50 Shades, because I don't necessarily have a super high quality standard. I'm not necessarily picky if things are super well written. I don't mind if the characters are a little bit 2D. It is essentially porn. But yeah, 50 Shades has never appealed to me enough to commit the time it would take to read it.
That's fair. I am left with the same impression.
Fair.
So we're going to try not to spend the next hour or so just ragging on it.
Yeah, and snarky as I'm being, I do think that it sometimes gets a little bit of an overly harsh reaction where people are maybe expecting it to be something more than what it is.
Yeah.
And I also, I've seen the movie twice now, and I didn't find it unenjoyable. Some of the enjoyment did come from the snarking. Yeah. But not all of it. It's a fairly light, slightly kinky, slightly problematic romance.
Yeah, and I think it exists in a really weird space where I can understand why kind of dedicated members of the BDSM community were maybe a little bit upset by some of the portrayal of some of the aspects of the kinky lifestyle that are in it. But I think generally there was an attempt to cover a lot of the criticisms that people have of it. Yeah, not particularly great, but not terrible.
Yeah.
I genuinely fully expected to despise every minute of it and be offended as a kinky person that this movie had ever been made. And I didn't.
Yeah. And I think that's the point I sort of always come back to on it when people are talking about 50 Shades, is if it was supposed to be, or if people receive it as a how-to guide to do a DS relationship, to explore kink in any way, it's not fit for purpose. But that was not its purpose. It was never intended to be. For anyone who's not familiar with sort of the history of 50 Shades of Grey, it was originally written as a piece of Twilight fanfiction.
Was it?
Did you not know that bit, mate?
No.
Incredible. I love that you're finding this out on microphone. I just wish we had video so we could see your face right now.
What?
So the original version of it, it was like an alternate universe that the Twilight characters were slotted into. Edward Cullen is a billionaire.
Right.
And Bella Swan is a virgin who doesn't know what a butt plug is.
Right.
Much as she is in Twilight, in fact.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that's how it started.
Right.
And the author then took down the original fan fiction, changed the names and some details. I don't know how substantial the rewrites were, but then made it into an original story and published it.
Yeah.
Initially self-published, and then it got picked up for a publishing deal and blew up into the sensation it became.
Yeah. Wow. That's wild.
And I think it's always been a bit of a mystery to me why 50 Shades, out of all of the fan fiction that exists, all of the erotica that exists, all of the romance and the dark romance, and all of the writing of that nature that's out there, that explores kink and explores sex and explores toxic relationships. Even like one of the criticisms that 50 Shades gets a lot of, I think largely reasonably, is that the relationship it shows is toxic and abusive and manipulative and all of that. There are plenty of stories that explore those kind of relationships, either as an escapist fantasy to explore dark things in a controlled environment, which is very much my thing, or because the author has some very toxic views of relationships that come through in how they write. But there are thousands and thousands of those. I still don't really understand why 50 Shades is the one that did what it did.
I don't know either why it was so popular. Well, on the strength of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, how was that so popular? But I think one of the things that it does do pretty well is it presents something which is actually really, really complex in a really simple and accessible way. It's not a complicated plot. It's not a complicated story. It touches on a lot of fairly common fantasies, I suppose, that people have about, this brooding, manly man kind of person, strength of personality, domineering, being ordered around, being told what to do, being used, but also then that kind of but I can fix him.
Yeah, because of the tragic backstory and emotional barriers that he has and things.
There's this kind of tortured soul who is softened by the presence of this naive young woman. Yeah, I can see why it was so popular, because I think it's a pretty common fantasy trope, and to its credit, presented in a pretty accessible way. Yeah, it didn't get into a lot of technical detail of BDSM and kink and how it works, which I think is part of the criticism of it. Yeah, but it doesn't really need to. If it serves its purpose, its narrow purpose as smutty fantasy, it doesn't really need to. One of the things I found interesting on the points where it was at its strongest, I think, was the points where the characters explained, and by extension, it explained to the audience what DS is, like what submission feels like and what the submissive gains from it. Yeah. Things like that. It had these brief moments of being like, couldn't have said it better myself. Like, spot on. And then it would do something ridiculous or just cringe. Like we've got a joke that started to run between us of you gave the example in our check-in a little while ago of the kind of behaviour you don't like from dominance is someone who walks into a munch and is expecting like everyone should kiss their feet and acting like they're trying to dominate everyone in the room. Yeah. And you were like, oh, calm down. Your name's Gary and you're from Redcar. Yeah. And now, like, calm down Gary is our shorthand for that kind of dominant. Yeah, Christian Grey is very calm down Gary. Very much, yeah. Very that. Yeah. I didn't write calm down Gary, but one of the first notes that I made when we were watching the movie was Suits. Very Tumblr circa 2015. Yes. That kind of domly dom, Tumblr dom type of vibe, kind of, the man's a billionaire, he wears really nice suits with cufflinks and drives a flashy car and kind of pouts and smoulders a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I think it is the way that people outside the kink community probably assume that doms are, and it's an easy kind of shorthand way. Yeah. I think 50 Shades, it was very much like, you can tell that it was not aimed at people who are super experienced in kink. And I don't just mean because of the inaccuracies and the things that it's criticised for. I mean, it doesn't do anything that's particularly interesting and spicy if you're kinky. It's beginner level kink.
pitched as spicier than it is.
Yeah.
With a character who's a good audience proxy because she knows nothing. So whatever level of knowledge you're coming in at, you don't feel like you have stupid questions because she's asking all the questions for you and getting that information.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably why it's worked well for a lot of people, but why
Yeah.
it doesn't work great for us.
Yeah, I think so.
So for anyone who's not familiar with the story of 50 Shades, though after about a decade of it being around, I imagine most people at least have a vague idea. 50 Shades of Grey is about a woman named Anastasia Steele who meets Christian Grey. Christian Grey is a very wealthy man. He has a dark past, which he is very reluctant to discuss, and a history of BDSM and relationships that are very focused on that. Anastasia is completely sexually inexperienced, knows nothing about BDSM, and is captivated by him from the first time they meet. They start to form a relationship, but there's a lot of conflict and push and pull because what he wants from her is for her to be an obedient submissive under contract to him. And what she wants from him is a normal relationship with date nights, good communication, affection, and sleeping in the same bed. She has a hard time understanding why he can't give her what she needs, and he has a hard time understanding why she can't just give his way a try. There's a lot of interesting ideas in this movie, but there's a lot that kind of fell flat for us as well.
Yeah, that's a very good summary.
Thank you.
That was a really good...
See, it was way better than the intro because I made it up as I went along instead of having it scripted in my head.
Having it written in your head. Yeah. No, it's always better to just make it up as you go along. There's a lesson for life in there, I feel.
Yes.
Bullshit.
But maybe not a lesson for Christian Grey because I feel like he's already doing that.
Fair. Okay, so my notes aren't the best.
Neither are mine. I was literally just snarking into my phone, so we'll piece it together. I mean, the first sort of the opening of it was Anna going to interview Christian at his office, wasn't it, Mix?
Yes, and she was very nervous about it. Didn't really seem to know what she was going for. Didn't seem particularly well prepared.
And she was covering for her flatmate, but it was just basic things like not having even read the questions her flatmate had written down. It was a bit like, come on. Yeah.
You would have thought she'd be, as a smart woman, you would have thought that she would have noticed that.
Yeah. I think the thing that frustrates me a lot with 50 Shades and with a lot of portrayal of submission generally is it sets subs up as being a bit useless. So we know she's smart, but she hasn't read the interview questions. She trips over on her way into the room. She either loses her pen or didn't have one. I can't remember. Why?
Yeah.
Why does a submissive woman have to immediately be set up to be a bit useless?
Yeah.
Basic stuff.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's a way of establishing that she needs leadership, that she needs someone to take control of her life because it's out of control.
Yeah.
And that just frustrates me a little bit when people can't show that someone's life would be enhanced by a dominant without making them useless.
Yeah, that starting point of needing to be rescued.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. I have to say, I have no idea how Christian Grey has made any money running his business if the way that he runs his business is reflected in any way by the way he runs his office. Because I have never seen so many women with so many separate, very specific tasks to perform. There was about 7 of them in the walk from the door to the reception to his office. It's the most inefficient reception process I've ever seen in my entire life. And if that's how he runs his business, how is he a billionaire? I don't understand it. I mean, they're all gorgeous.
Which is why he has 7 of them.
Obviously. But yeah, I got weirdly mad about that. I was like, this is not how an efficient office functions. What are you doing? And it reminded me, you might be too young for this. Some of our listeners will be too young for this, but it reminded me of the Robert Palmer video, Too Addicted to Love, where it's basically him standing in a suit being all sexy in the way that Robert Palmer was, surrounded by completely vacant, highly made up women playing the instrument in the background. It was that kind of vibe. They're there for decoration.
Yeah.
As a foil for the main man.
I have terrible news for you. Looking at our Spotify analytics so far, our main audience is 22 to 26.
We might as well cut that bit out then, because it's going to mean nothing. It's going to mean nothing.
That's okay. It will establish your age.
Yeah.
As a plot point.
People are going to listen to go, all right, Grandad. Bye.
One thing I did like about the opening of the movie is after she's had this interaction with him where he's, in my opinion, rude, obnoxious, dismissive. Her interview skills are terrible. His behaviour is unreasonable. I do not understand why you would get any kind of positive vibe from this, but she does, and she leaves the office, and you see her have this full body holy shit, what just happened moment.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those weird contradictions with this movie where in some ways it's such a bad portrayal of BDSM, and in some ways it's so good because that is what it feels like when you get that thing of like, I just want to submit to this person and I don't know why and I barely know them, but holy fuck, something's happening here.
Yeah.
Like, they got that spot on, and I really liked it.
Yeah, and there was a couple of bits of that, wasn't there, where she was kind of, a little bit cliche, but absent-mindedly sucking on the pence during the interview.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. I think you're right. The reaction to that interaction, I think, I can't quite see how she got there personally, because he was a bit of a dick the whole time that she was in there.
Yeah.
And, he was saying, oh, I'm good at people. Are you, though?
Are you, though? Yeah.
You're not really showing it at the moment. Bit weird, actually. But you're right. She came out and she had this kind of full body melt, didn't she, over it? He was clearly into her as well, but we didn't see
his reaction.
He was probably brooding, looking out of his window in that way that he does.
Whoa, we've time travelled.
Holy Marty McFly.
So when we did the original recording for this episode, I made a foolish mistake, Mix.
Yes, you did.
I left the washing machine on.
Yes, that was very silly.
And through most of the episode, we got away with it, probably thanks to a little bit of the magic of noise reduction on our microphones.
Yes.
But during a section of the recording, it went into a spin cycle, and that is all you can hear.
Yes. Not very good listening.
It's not good at all. So we are jumping in to talk about the section that was not usable, and then we will time travel again, and you will go back to the past versions of ourselves to hear about the rest of the movie.
That's the sound of time travel.
Is it, Nix?
Yes.
Amazing.
So the next scene. So the next scene was where she is at work.
She is, yes, Nix. I remember it clearly now.
Yes.
As if we just watched it earlier today.
Yes. She is at work in a DIY store, and Christian turns up, which is a little bit stalkerish.
It is, yeah. At this point, like, she has not given him any information at all about where she lives, where she works, any of that, and he just seems to know it all, which is slightly alarming.
Yes. And then proceeds to buy some kink-related equipment.
Yes, he buys rope, he buys zip ties, and he weirdly asks for masking tape, but is sold duct tape. But it's fine with this.
Yes. And I think in a kink context, you would want duct tape.
More than likely, yeah. Definitely if you're using it as restraints.
Suddenly trying to think of what you would use masking tape for in a kink contest. Leave a comment. Tell us what you would use masking tape for in a kink context.
Yes.
So she's still naive at this point and doesn't realise that he's buying kinky things, and she asks him whether he's a serial killer.
Yeah.
Which is not an unreasonable question.
It's not, but she still seems really into him. Like, I feel like if I thought someone might be a serial killer, I mean, she's joking, but if someone was buying stuff that I didn't know it was for kink, that seemed a bit serial killerish, and they'd shown up at my place of work, despite only having met me once and me not having given them any details like that, I would be concerned. There's some red flags there.
Yeah. I don't know. I know you pretty well. I think there's a little bit of you that might be into that.
True. Okay, yeah, that's a fair point. Into it, but with boundaries. Like, yeah, that's hot, but also, I don't trust this.
Yeah. That's good. Safe.
Very rack of me.
Very, very rap of you, yeah.
So while he is at her place of work, he talks to her a little bit about the interview, and she mentions that they've been struggling to get hold of any good photos for him to go along with the article that's being written. And he asks her if she would like to come and take some photos. So she goes to take some photos with him with a friend of her who is a photographer.
Oh, yes. And he, being the dom that he is very serious.
Very.
During this photo shoot, very kind of brooding and dark and unsmiling.
Yeah, which, like with a lot of things in this movie, it rides a very fine line between that's cringe and that's hot, and this is definitely, for me, on the side of that's cringe. Because a dom being serious and being very sort of cold and commanding in a scene can be really hot. But someone who takes themselves that seriously that they have to be like that all the time is not the vibe. No. And I really struggle with that depiction of dominance as being, stern and serious, brooding and dark and all of that stuff all of the time. It's just like, that's not how most people are. No. And it just gives that vibe of this is a show. I am putting on a show for everybody to
recognise my natural alpha male dominance.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
And it is very much tied to how people depict male dominance. I mean, you don't see a lot of depictions of female dominance anyway, but there's definitely this idea that dominance and that sort of exaggerated masculinity go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Which is just not how that works.
Not how that works for the majority of people, no. But she's into it.
She is,
because they go for coffee.
They do. I think straight from the photo shoot.
I think so. Yeah.
Because we saw this movie earlier today.
Yeah, we saw it. So, of course, that's what happens.
Yeah.
And there's some red flags in this scene, I think it's fair to say, in the coffee shop scene.
There are, yeah, Mix. So as soon as they get sat down, he unwraps her muffin for her. He sort of slides her food and drink towards her, I think, and like tells her eat.
Yes.
Which it was one of those things where, again, with that line of between is it cringe, is it hot? Yeah. There's something about that is a little bit hot to me, but it is also a red flag. It's like if someone I didn't know very well and hadn't had any conversation about kink with did that to me, would it turn me on a little bit? Probably yes. Would I see them again? Probably not.
I think that's fair. And I think, I described it as a red flag, and I guess context is important for that sort of thing, because I think a lot of people have been in that situation where they kind of meeting someone for the first time, or they're kind of spending some time socializing with them, and there is that little flirty edge to it.
Yeah.
You're kind of getting to know each other, establishing what's occurring, and then that gentle pushing at the door, I suppose, in a light-hearted way.
Yeah.
As long as everybody's clearly into it, it's a tricky balance, I think, to get that kind of thing right.
And I think the reason it comes across as such a red flag there is she knows nothing about kink, not just his kink. She knows nothing about kink at all at this stage. They don't know each other well. He doesn't know if she's into any of that kind of stuff at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a bit too early. I think much as everything in kink needs to be negotiated and consented to and really sort of specific and clear, there is that kind of natural blurring of the line a little bit early in sort of establishing an attraction, an interest between a dominant and a submissive, where you start to display your roles a little bit. You're not doing anything without consent. You're not pushing boundaries. You're not overstepping. You're not trying to set rules on anyone or anything like that, but just sort of showing a little bit of authority or showing a little bit of submission. Yeah. Is kind of how kinky people flirt a lot of the time.
Yeah. So
there's a way that scene could have worked if the setup to it had been different, if the context had been a little bit different, I think.
Yeah, I feel the same about it, but I watched it and just thought, what are you doing? Let the poor girl eat her muffin at her own pace.
So I think, Mix, having talked about 3 scenes of 50 Shades of Grey, it's time for us to go back to the future. She then goes home, and at some point at home, he arranges for some very, very expensive first edition books to be delivered to her as a gift, which she is unsettled by, as I would be if someone had just told me they had no interest. Well, he didn't say he had no interest, but if he said that he wasn't going to date me and then got me a very expensive gift, I would not find that as thoughtful as he maybe thought she would find it.
How does he know where she lives?
That is a good point. I didn't pick up on that, Mix.
Yeah. He knows where she works. He knows where she lives.
Yeah.
None of that information has been shared.
Oh dear. Yeah, that is concerning.
So there's a salient kind of political and social commentary in there, is that we just should not be trusting billionaires with our data.
Yes.
Because they'll turn up at your house.
Absolutely.
Well, they'll turn up at your place of work and send first edition books to your house.
I mean, if that's what they do, I guess that's okay.
Fair.
So she then decides to go out and get drunk with her roommate, gets extremely messily drunk, and then calls Christian to basically rant at him about how he's confusing and annoying, and she is sick of him, which is valid.
Valid.
And he decides that he is not impressed that she is drunk and out in a public place and putting herself at risk, and that it is his job to track where the phone call is coming from and rescue her, which is, again, creepy. Even if well-intentioned, creepy.
Very, very creepy, yes. And this is where we discover some stuff about Jose. We get a little insight into Jose as a person, which is a shame, because up until this point, he's been pretty inoffensive.
Yeah.
Like, kind of nice.
Yeah.
Photographer, artist.
Yeah, and at one point she'd said, Christian asked if Jose was her boyfriend, and she said no, like he's like a brother to me or something, so they've been good friends for quite a while.
Yeah.
and then he decides to grab her and forcibly kiss her while she is pretty much blackout drunk.
Yes.
Which seemed to come out of nowhere.
It did seem to come out of nowhere.
It seemed like it was very convenient to the plot for Jose to suddenly be a creep.
Yeah.
With no prior warning.
Yeah. But yes, Christian comes along and rescues her.
Yes.
And takes Anna back to his place.
His place, yes, Nix.
Yeah. And then she wakes up the next morning in a completely different set of clothes, in bed.
He's already out of bed when she wakes up, but he confirms that they slept in the same bed. Yeah.
I think I have some thoughts about.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that. I particularly like when she asked if he'd undressed her, and he said, "Well, yes, I had no choice." It's like, you are a billionaire.
Yeah.
You have female staff. Several of them.
You could have picked one of the 6 female staff working on your reception.
Yeah. Like, you could have taken her and put her in a 5-star hotel, got one of his many female staff to help her get undressed.
Yeah.
Like, there's a few options he had there other than stripping her himself and getting into bed next to her.
Yeah, but I think this is the point at which he talks about what he likes.
Yes, Nick, that leads into that. Yeah.
So this is the point at which they have an actual conversation about BDSM.
Yeah, well, he shows her his playroom, and then some explaining happens.
That's true, yes, because there was that amazing line, isn't there, right, where he says, I want to show you my playroom. And she's like where you keep your Xbox and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think would have been a great twist in that movie. Actually, it turns out he's just a massive dork.
Yeah. I would watch that movie.
So yes, he introduces her to the playroom, and it's a pretty cool dungeon, to be fair.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a bit while we were watching it, didn't we, Mix? Where, like, it's a beautiful space, as you would expect with the money he's got. Like, if we had unlimited money, pretty much, to design our play space, we would do something really cool with it. I was a bit disappointed in the kit, though. He has less toys than us. At least physically.
Yeah, there were lots of drawers and stuff, I suppose, but it like the organisation of it was more for aesthetics than practicality.
Yeah.
I think.
Like, not a lot of specialised kink furniture. There's a bed with various points to attach rope and cuffs and things on it, like a 4-poster bed, I think.
Yeah.
I think we see a spanking bench at one point, but there's not. I might need to watch it again. I'm sure I'll get people correcting me, but I didn't spot anything like a St. Andrew's cross, not any kind of stocks or anything, like nothing specialised.
No.
Which the amount of space he has.
Yeah, he had the thing that came down from the ceiling that she was attached to.
Yes.
Which was quite cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose you're right. Like it's a nice room, but for someone who is setting themselves up as being very dark, very sadistic, and all of that kind of stuff, it was mostly floggers, some canes.
Yeah.
Including a bamboo cane that you pointed out.
He can afford better than that.
He can do better than that. I feel some like leather straps and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was thinking like none of them look particularly interesting. Like anyone who's got that strong of an interest in BDSM, where it's established at this point that is the only type of relationship he's interested in. He doesn't do vanilla dating. That he's been into for like the whole time that he's had a sex life. Like, we've been together 2 years, and our kit includes like just some really unique stuff that you just don't really see anywhere. We've got like one-off pieces made by like proper craftsmen, and we don't have billions to invest in our kink supplies. We've got enough money to be comfy, but we are not billionaires. And we've been able to build up a collection with some really, really unique, interesting stuff. And there was nothing in his collection that you wouldn't find in a normal sex shop.
Yeah. I didn't pick up on that at first, but yeah, now you said it, it kind of, it was a slightly uninspiring set of equipment. Although I feel like that might say more about us than it does about him.
Maybe, yeah.
You know? I guess from the perspective of making a movie.
Yeah.
I can see why they needed things that would be familiar to even people with very limited knowledge, I suppose.
Yeah.
So people would recognise canes, probably recognise a flogger, or at least infer.
You can tell
from the shape of it what you could hit someone with that.
Just imagine how cool it would have been if, like, there'd been some of those familiar things for the audience to be like, I know what that's for.
Yeah.
But just in the background, there'd just been a few just really strange things. It would have given it just...
Yeah.
It would have put you more in Anna's shoes, I think, where she's really, really naive, so all of this is going to blow her mind.
Yeah.
But if you put some stuff in that would blow most people's minds, I'm trying to think, like, what would be really off the wall. So, like, the chain flogger I've got.
Yeah.
For example. Like, you would look at that and be like, oh my god, people actually hit each other with those.
Yeah,
Like something like that would just kind of make you pause for a second and go, what?
Yeah,
Would
like
have had more impact.
really heavy duty, like gimp mask type of thing. Yeah, just subtly in the background would have been. I think you're right. Would have been really good actually.
Yeah. Some kind of like gas mask with all the various attachments for it as well. Again, just going through in my head like
the stuff that we've got.
Yeah. Or like just really interesting like hand carved paddles that have got sort of ridges and grooves and weights and setting them and things like that. Like the pieces that we've got from fuck, I've gone blank. Venator, yes. The pieces that we've got from Venator.
Yeah.
Would be so like they look like someone has spent a lot of money on them because they're expensive.
Yeah.
And
because
they
did.
we did, yeah.
Yeah.
And they would have fit the aesthetic of that room while still very recognizably being like, okay, you would hit someone with that.
Yeah.
Stuff like that would have just elevated that scene, I think.
And I think this is one of those parts of the movie where you say, okay, this isn't quite how you would do this. But you can see that there's an attempt at explanation and negotiation.
Yeah.
And there she's asking some questions which are entirely reasonable questions. He talks about, I think he identifies himself as a dominant.
He does.
As a sadist.
No, she asks him if he's a sadist. Right. And he says no and says, I'm a dominant.
Yeah.
And then explains a little bit about what that means.
But that was sorry, Alex.
I've realised we've gone out of order because there was the first date in between her getting drunk and this.
Oh, was there?
Yeah, it wasn't.
Oh, shit.
So we have just talked at length about how he showed her the playroom after she woke up from getting messy drunk. We are incorrect. This was an inaccuracy that we now retract. After she woke up from being extremely messy, she went home and he then invited her on a date. I apologise, Christian Grey, for slandering you, and you did not make a hungover woman look at your playroom.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, he took her out in his helicopter.
Yes.
And they had a very nice time.
Yes.
But he made her sign an NDA.
Yes.
Did she sign it though?
She did sign the NDA.
Sign it, yeah.
I'm going to be honest. That is one of the things that shamefully worked for me. I like that.
Right.
I like the NDA signing.
Why?
Because I'm a pervert, Nick.
Okay.
Just like that little bit of like, this is a completely legal and in many contexts normal thing.
Yeah.
Being asserted in a controlling way.
Right.
I like that. It's like when I've talked to you about how for like various sort of life admin and planning for the worst sort of scenarios and stuff, like I would like to make you my power of attorney.
Yeah.
And that's all very sensible and practical.
Yeah.
But it's also hot.
Good grief.
I like the twisting of general legal documents for sex reasons mix. It's why I like having a contract.
Like, yeah, I was going to say it's why you like having a contract. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I can see the attraction for that, and that partly made because it was me that led us down the garden path.
Yeah.
I think I didn't really write very much about that first date, other than they're just piling on how amazing he is. Because not only is he a handsome billionaire, he's a helicopter pilot and he's a pianist.
Yeah.
He has this amazing house, and he's in a position where he can ask people to sign an NDA on their first date.
Yeah, I did enjoy during the bit when he was flying the helicopter though, he was looking over it and being all flirty and stuff, and you just sat next to me suddenly shouted, "Look where you're going, you're flying a fucking helicopter!"
What? Yeah, he was flying a helicopter over a city.
Yeah.
Over an American city, which has got skyscrapers all over the place, and he is staring at this woman. It's like, what? How did you get your license if that's the nonsense that you're pulling? It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. No regard for aircraft safety.
Then he got to sign the NDA, and then immediately after me being shamefully turned on by the signing of the NDA, I was shamefully turned on again because she signed it and then went, "So you're going to make love to me now?" And he went, "I don't make love. I fuck hard."
Oh, God.
That works on me.
Does that work as well, does it?
Yeah.
Dear me.
And you're cringing and you're making fun of him. I swear to God, you have said something pretty much the same as that before.
I know. Yeah, I have, to be fair. I can sympathise with that. I know, but it's just, I keep saying it, but it is just so Tumblr dong, isn't it? It's that peacocky nonsense that
Yeah. And there were parts of the movie where that worked and parts where it didn't. I feel like that part
Yeah.
As well as me just being a little bit like, oh yeah, I would like someone to say that to me. It's just, it felt like it fit the context.
Yeah.
He was ready to explain to her what's actually on the table with him.
Yeah.
And what wasn't, and her being like, do you want to make love? It's absolutely not the vibe for him. Mm-hmm. So it felt like a valid response.
Fair. Okay, I will be less judgmental of him. But yes, so now we're back on track. He shows her the playroom, which does not contain any Xboxes.
No.
That I could see.
Not a single one.
Not a single one. And then they have the discussion about, are you a sadist? And he says, no, I'm a dominant.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's something we've talked about in a previous episode. You know, that it's that distinction, I suppose, it was just a really interesting moment.
Yeah.
For me about, actually, you're probably both.
Yeah. And that, spoiler alert, because I've seen all 3 movies, is something that they circle back to.
Right.
But at this stage in this movie, he identifies as a dominant and not a sadist.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, he talks to her about a contract. He even, I think, mentions that before they go into the playroom, possibly, but certainly once they're in, he brings up that he will want her to sign a contract. He does say, before I start ripping into him about his behaviour around the contract, he does explain to her what submission is. And he says that she'll willingly surrender herself to him. She asks why. He says, to please me. And she asks what would happen if I don't please you, and he says that I'd punish you. I think it's quite a light explanation. It's quite brief, and he doesn't really ask a lot of input from her about what she would want from a relationship, which I would consider essential. Mm-hmm. But as an explanation of the very, very basic, if you had to sum it up in a sentence, how DS works, it's not bad.
Yeah, and I think that's what when we say it's not the worst portrayal of it in the world, you can see that attempts are being made.
Yeah.
To guide Anna and by extension the audience through that process. Yeah. Is it, because I fully expected to watch this movie based on what I'd heard from other people. I fully expected that scene to be, here's a contract, sign it, and she signs it. Yeah, and it's definitely not. It's not. That process is not perfect. Yeah. But as an accessible view of what that looks like. Yeah. Yeah, it's not the worst. Yeah, like my big issue with the contract is the fact that he's got it pre-written. And he does say straight off the bat that he wants her to read it and revise it and come back for negotiation. Which is, it's more than we get in a lot of kinky movies that get less criticism than this one does, to be fair. But someone turning up with a pre-written contract or introducing a contract that early in a relationship, to me, is not great. It's not what I would look for, and it would put me off if someone was taking that approach. Yeah. If you think about the journey we had to our first contract, like it was the first sort of 10 months of our relationship that we worked on just establishing what actually worked for us as a dynamic. Because I think that I might be giving too much credit to the movie and to the book that came before it. But it might be an intentional thing that it's about Christian having a sort of poor understanding and acceptance of himself, that he is extremely rigid in his approach. Yeah. He has a cut and paste dynamic that he applies to woman after woman after woman with minor revisions in terms of things like their hard limits. Yeah, yeah. But the structure he has is the structure he has. Yeah. Where I think healthy DS is a lot more about you both come into it with ideas of what you want in a dynamic and what works for you in a dynamic, but then you collaborate together to create something that's uniquely yours. And just trying to take a contract that you had with someone else and without any amendment to it at all, just slap it down to another person and go, add some hard limits and go. Yeah. Is losing that process, and it's not involving the submissive in anywhere near enough of a way. No, and that is a bit of a theme of the movie, where it's kind of his way or not. Yeah. Which isn't, a healthy basis for any relationship, but definitely not a healthy basis for a DS dynamic. And, kind of the irony in some of the things where Anna asks a question about what she might want, and he flat out says, that's not my thing. Yeah. And then in the next breath is asking her to keep an open mind. Yeah. And it's like, that's not how that works. No. There's a contradiction in there, which might be deliberate. Maybe, like you say, maybe we aren't giving the author and the screenplay writer enough credit for that. Maybe that is the point, but it just feels quite jarring. But I think on the plus side of it, as we both sort of touched on, like he says that he wants her to read through it thoroughly, think about it, come back with the things that she's not happy with. Yeah. So primarily what we see them talking about is establishing sort of hard and soft limits. Yeah. The actual structure of the relationship doesn't really seem to be up for much discussion, which is, from my point of view, like a massive weakness in negotiation.
But I think when people talk about this movie as not showing consent at all, that isn't true. There are issues with the consent in it, and multiple scenes throughout. There are issues with how the consent is actually being navigated and communicated, and there's a lot of manipulation and a lot of really bad behaviour.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the way that they talk about the contract, they're not a million miles off.
Yeah, she's not forced to sign it. I mean,
No, she never does. She never signs it.
No, she doesn't.
I think his behaviour starts to go downhill from that point on, though, because
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, think about the contract. If you're interested, come back and we'll negotiate all of that stuff." And then she goes away. He buys her a new computer so she can research BDSM on the internet, which she says that she does, but then later on doesn't know what a butt plug is. So I'm not sure how much research she did, but
yeah.
But she does some. And then he emails her and asks how the research is going. And she replies back saying something like, "Oh, nice knowing you." Like, basically saying she's not interested.
Yeah.
And so he lets himself into her house.
Yes.
He lets himself into her house. And then they have sex, and she doesn't say no to that, but he doesn't exactly ask either.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that was the point, or the aftermath of that scene is where I wrote down in all capital letters, "Who takes their t-shirt off like that?"
How did he take his t-shirt off, Mix? That didn't stick out to me.
So maybe it's just me, maybe I'm taking my t-shirt off wrong. But I kind of grab it from, I was going to say here, which is completely useless for anybody. I kind of grab it from the front and then pull it up over me. Whereas he was taking it off one-handed from the back of his neck and over. And you can see why he was doing it, because the action of doing that requires you to kind of crunch your abs.
Yeah.
So as soon as the t-shirt's off, it's like muscles. But it just seems like the stupidest way to take off a t-shirt I've ever seen in my entire life.
See, it's interesting to me because taking it off by holding the neck of the t-shirt always looks wrong to me, whether it's the front or the back, because I take it from the bottom.
Yeah.
I peel it off.
Yeah, which again is another valid way of doing it.
You don't really think about how you take a t-shirt off until you're analysing how Christian Grey takes his t-shirt off.
Yeah. Yes.
So at this point, we sort of skimmed over them, but there's been a couple of sex scenes. There was one that I don't make love, I fuck hard.
Yes.
After the first date, there was the one in her flat where he's just let himself in. And it's interesting, like, you sort of
right up yours, a little bit of home invasion CNC.
Yeah, I mean, if that was negotiated and it was a bit spicier, maybe that would have been good.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a couple of things. Firstly, before he started bringing up the contract, he said he wouldn't touch her until they signed the contract.
Yes.
And then did.
And then repeatedly touched her.
Yeah. And I think that's probably better that you have some form of relationship established before you sign a contract, but it suggests to me that he's not really got great self-control or ability to actually plan or stick to anything he says, which is all red flags all over the place. Mm-hmm. But also, it's interesting that this book obviously was written as erotica, and then the movie, like, it's a movie, we knew it wasn't going to be a porn movie. Like, it was always going to tone things down and make them less explicit.
Yeah.
But it's a shame, I think, that something that was written as erotica and was written primarily to appeal to women shows us no female pleasure.
Yeah.
There are no orgasms on screen. There are her getting a little bit turned on and squirmy.
Yeah.
But we see no orgasms. We see no real foreplay.
No.
There's like implied oral at one point, but like we don't see anything to show that he actually does it.
Yeah.
There's a couple of scenes where he sort of touches her in non-intimate places for about a minute, and then they have penetrative sex.
Yeah.
She would be dry.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's spicy and fun, but I don't think that's the vibe they were going for.
Yeah.
Like, it's frustrating because one of the few things that you can really say positively about 50 Shades the book is that it made it much more socially acceptable to enjoy smut. It made it much more acceptable for women to talk about how they nurture themselves sexually.
Yeah.
In or out of relationships, what they do for themselves sexually is they read these kind of books and they enjoy it. It brought that into the public eye. It made it a lot more acceptable. And almost without exception, written erotica has a really strong focus on female pleasure. Sometimes to the point where it'll make me feel a little bit insecure reading it, because I sometimes have trouble reaching orgasm and I'm not particularly multi-orgasmic, and I'll be reading these books and it's like, and then she came, and then she came again, and then she came again, and then she came again, and I'm like, well, mine doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
But like, that's a really good thing about it, that it really like celebrates that and shows it as important.
Yeah.
And then they've just completely stripped that out of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not saying they should have made it super explicit, but you can imply someone's having an orgasm and show that on screen without showing anyone's bits.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Meg Ryan did it in a cafe.
Yeah, exactly.
For our younger viewers, that is a reference to a movie called When Harry Met Sally.
I would hope people get that reference, because I'm too young to have seen the movie, but I get the reference because it's been parodied that many times.
Yeah, true. I hope so as well. But you just never know.
You never know.
You never know. The number of blank faces that I have been met with from people who aren't that much younger than me about what I think are fairly basic pop culture references.
Bear in mind, I grew up like extremely religious, so you could be the same age as me and I would miss half your pop culture references.
True. Yeah. Anyway, we digress.
We digress, as we do.
I suppose because of my perspective and my experience, I suppose that I think you're right. I think that is one of the great things about Smut, and it is a shame that didn't carry through to the book. I suppose the bit that I noticed about those scenes, I suppose, was where the nudity was focused. I suppose you saw an awful. I mean, I suppose you saw Christian's chest a lot, but you saw pretty much everything of Anna.
There was one very brief shot where you saw like the base of his cock, just a little.
Yeah, just a little.
Unzipping his pants and undoing his belt on his suit in that Tumbledon way.
But again, I suppose, given who the books were primarily aimed at, you would have thought there would have been at least a bit more of a balance.
Yeah, it did feel a bit male gazy, like the way that it was shot.
Yeah.
And not necessarily not in a way that I would say was sort of exploitative and bad and offensive in any way.
Yeah.
But it definitely felt more like you were meant to be looking at her than him.
Yeah.
Which is strange, like you say, given the target audience of the book.
Given who this movie is aimed at. I have to be honest, I kind of checked out for the sex scenes a little bit, because I think sex scenes in movies are always a little bit rubbish.
Yeah, that's fair. One thing I did find interesting was he mentions a few times that he doesn't normally let anyone else sleep in his bed with him. He doesn't have anyone come into his bed. He wants her to move in with him immediately. Another red flag.
Yeah.
But into a separate room in the house.
Yeah. Where
he will summon her from to go and do things in his sex dungeon, and then he will put her back in her room for storage and safety.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the only time he's ever allowed a woman to sleep in his bed before is when Anna was blackout drunk and he needed somewhere to put her. Why does he have a full-size mirror on the ceiling above his bed? In that case,
vanity, narcissism.
Exactly. Like, he is not watching himself fucking that. He is just looking at himself.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even spot the full-size mirror above his bed, to be fair. Nice little man.
Yeah, because you see it in the first sex scene, scene, and it's like, okay, why is that there? If you've never done that before.
Yeah, it's an important question and you should ask it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel maybe he just likes watching himself jerk off.
Yeah.
Which I guess people do.
Yeah, no, that's valid.
Get really excited by it. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't watch myself jerk off. Jesus Christ.
I would watch you jerk off.
Well, yes, I know you would. You have.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't watch myself do it. Not my thing. So this is the point where we learn a little bit more about Christian Grey.
Yeah.
About his background. Anna is quite rightly asking questions about where some of this stuff comes from for him.
Yeah.
And he talks about how he was very young when he had his first BDSM experience with someone who was significantly older than him.
Yeah.
And it was in the role of a submissive, which was an interesting choice, I think, and not surprising given that he was so young and she was so much older than him. And I think it gives the first glimpse, I suppose, into what lies behind the brooding Donnelly doll that is Christian Grey. And it doesn't really address it directly, but there's clearly some trauma there. Because I think he said he was 15 when that was happening. I don't think he said how old.
But he said that she was one of his mother's friends.
One of his mother's friends, so significant age gap.
Yeah.
And doing that as in the kind of submissive role as well, I suppose there's some really quite dark things potentially going on there about kind of power and authority and agency and consent. So I just thought it was an interesting first glimpse into what lies behind for Christian. And I think what's interesting for me is it probably sparks different thoughts in different people depending on your perspective. So someone who is completely vanilla, has no experience or interest in kink outside of kind of fantasy and smut. I'm going to stereotype a little bit, but probably kind of heard that or saw it or read it or however they experienced it. either in the book or in the movie, and thought, so he's this kind of broken person, and Anna, being her soft, lovely self, can fix him and can heal him and can make him feel better, and all of that perspective on it. But then someone who is more experienced in BDSM and kink might have a slightly different reaction to that and go, oh, okay, that makes sense. He's processing his experiences that consciously or unconsciously might have been a traumatic experience for him.
Yeah, because it's interesting that he doesn't acknowledge it as traumatic and is still friends with the woman. He's no longer involved in any kind of kink with her, and he's obviously developed into a dominant role, so wouldn't be compatible with her at the stage he's at now. But he doesn't seem to see that as having been a bad thing that happened to him. He doesn't seem to acknowledge it as being sexually abusive.
No.
Just like, oh yeah, that's a thing that happened, and now we're friends.
Yeah.
And there's a very sort of clear wall in his head, and it's one of those moments where there's quite a few points in it where I think like there's a more interesting movie here. There's a more interesting story here.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like an opportunity missed.
Yeah.
I think you're right. There's a really interesting subplot in there, I suppose,
and not an unrealistic one. I've definitely encountered people who were involved in kink and who had some kinks that you could see were potentially influenced by some trauma. Who had that very sort of dissociated relationship with their trauma, where they will say, "Oh yeah, this thing happened to me, but it didn't have any effect on me, and I'm completely fine."
Yeah.
And then you can see how it's manifesting in their life and how it may be manifesting in their kink. And it's like, maybe if you integrated this stuff better in your head, you would benefit from it. Same with the stuff that is revealed later in the movie with it's sort of the trauma that he acknowledges as trauma from his past, the much earlier childhood stuff. It's not inaccurate to say that there are people who have kinks where they sort of tether them to trauma in some way and use them to process trauma and are influenced by trauma. Like, I feel like a lot of my kinks are very, very sort of entangled with trauma. I have definitely met dominants who also have that experience, so that's not just a sub thing. I think it's your kinks are shaped by your life experiences, and if some of those life experiences are traumatic, that's going to come through.
Yeah.
But also, there's plenty of studies that show that kinky people are not more traumatized on average than anybody else. Like, we don't have higher rates of trauma than the general population. So I think it's not necessarily wrong that the movie wanted to show a dominant with trauma.
No.
It's the way that they've done it feels a bit reductive, and like Anna's perception of him being like this because he's gone through some shit and that's it isn't really challenged. Throughout this period, they've been sort of talking about the contract on and off. There's been a bit of emailing back and forth, a bit of her being sassy about it, a lot of her saying that she's never going to sign it, and a lot of him trying to convince her, which sometimes feels playful, sometimes feels manipulative, but they get there.
Yeah.
And eventually she does say that yes, she is open to trying things his way. And she wants to meet up to discuss the contract. He suggests dinner, and she insists on a business meeting, which we both liked.
Yeah, one of my favourite scenes in the movie. I think, because it is like a proper business meeting. They're sitting at a big glass table. They're dressed very formally, and it's just a really nice back and forth. Between the two of them. And actually, he is, I think, almost completely open to whatever she says. Yeah.
It's a very mutually respectful scene. Feels very sexually charged in a way that is quite authentic to how I experienced DS.
Yeah.
Like that getting turned on by being a bit nerdy about the contract thing is very us.
Yeah,
it was the point where they felt the most relatable, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, for all the movies for a good example of how consent and negotiation actually does work, because you're coming at it as equals. I think that it is unequal in that he has given her a fully written contract. Yeah. But in that part of the movie, she is asking questions and he is answering them, and she is saying no to things and moving things around. And he's accepting of all of that.
Yeah, if you take it just in isolation and sort of set aside the fact that a contract that heavy and that fully developed shouldn't be introduced to a completely inexperienced submissive that you've known for 5 minutes. Yeah. Just as a negotiation scene, it's really good.
Yeah, and I think you're right, because there's a part of that kind of sequence in the movie. You kind of you learn about the different things that are in the contract.
Yeah,
and it's like, from my perspective, as someone who, you know, we have a pretty very detailed contract. You know, yeah, actually, that's not a bad contract.
Yeah, but it is definitely a heavy one.
It is a really heavy one. But so yeah, as all at once, with someone who has absolutely no frame of reference to go whether to decide with any kind of agency whether this is the right thing for them or not.
Yeah, and it felt like they tried to sort of address that, where when he first brings up the contract, That's when she reveals that she has no sexual experience, and it's like, how can I sort of decide what I like and what I don't if I've never done anything like this before? And that's implied, at least, to be why he relaxes his self-imposed rule of not having any physical contact until the contract is signed. It's like, okay, you need to experience some stuff before you make a decision.
Yeah.
The problem is that he doesn't really communicate that to her, and she still hasn't experienced anywhere near enough to sign like the contract. The contract includes, let me find it. So the contract includes total free use, so any level of sexual service that isn't on the hard limits list is available to him 24/7. Control over her contraception. He's going to choose what she takes and enforce her taking it.
Yeah.
Exclusive monogamy. Diet control, limits on alcohol, and a ban on drugs and smoking, which is great for your health, but it's still a high level of control. There's some protocol in there with use of honorifics and limits around her touching him. Includes safe words and hard limits, which is really important and definitely stuff you should have right from the start. So it's the things that I would expect, like, from the start in a DS relationship. Personally, I wouldn't want to do a contract from day one, but I think having some written notes at least is a good idea, as we've talked about before. But the stuff that I would want to see, whether it's written down or not, from day one in a DS relationship is some talk around safe words, limits. Absolutely, that stuff's important. I personally am quite comfy with free use straight off the bat. I like free use. But I also like my kink pretty heavy. I think that's not necessarily a day one thing, especially for someone inexperienced. And some rules around general well-being. So potentially like the rules he had around drugs and smoking would be good ones to have in there. Some other kind of well-being rules are good. The level of control that he's put in that contract is not stuff that I would accept from a dominant that I would only just started a relationship with. That's stuff that you build up to over months or years.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. And I suppose I'm not in any way condoning.
I know you weren't.
The approach that is taken in the movie. It is just, as total power exchange contracts go.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
You just don't start that with someone that you've known for 3 days who's no experience of BDSM.
Yeah.
At all.
I would have liked it better if they wanted to show a really heavy contract in it.
Yeah.
If he'd said to her, like, this is what I want us to work towards.
Yeah.
Take this away and come back to me with what parts of it you're willing to do from day one. Immediately a better movie.
See, I disagree a little bit about whether. So, I agree with you entirely about the approach that should have been taken.
Yeah.
Whether it would have made a better movie or not, I think it's the mindset with which you are approaching the movie, I think, which affects that. You can see what they're doing, because on the face of it, without thinking about it too deeply, if you've got no experience, I can see a scenario where somebody, tall, dark, handsome, rich, muscular, dominant man comes along and says, this is the contract that you're going to live by. As fantasy, I can kind of see people going, yeah, I'll have a bit of that.
That's true. And I guess it's a weird one. So I'm critiquing all of the consent issues and the manipulation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, right now, my current book that I'm reading, I don't know how much I can say about the current book that I'm reading, but there's a woman living in full-on sexual slavery and being tortured on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I like messed up fantasies. That's I don't necessarily think that the actual sort of critique of 50 Shades being like it's harmful because what it's showing is a toxic and arguably non-consensual relationship is necessarily a strong critique, because it's a fantasy and because that's a safe place to explore those kind of things. If they excite you, or if you find that that's a good outlet for getting kind of negative experiences out of your head by turning them into a game, whatever it is, I don't think those kind of fantasies and that kind of fiction is a bad thing. And there's things that I read that are a lot more fucked up than anything in 50 Shades by a long shot. I think the frustration with it is it puts itself into a weirdly grey area where it's not really hitting the criteria to be dark or pitch black romance. It's not messed up enough, but it's not healthy and ethical enough to be proper BDSM either.
Yeah.
And I feel like it then kind of fails on both counts.
Yeah.
I think I would have found it more interesting if it had been a properly accurate portrayal of BDSM. Or if they had leaned into, this guy stalks her, this guy manipulates her, gets in her head and convinces her to sign this insane contract that's really taking her way out of her depth, really inappropriate. If it was conscious about that and deliberate and was like, isn't this so screwed up?
Yeah.
There's a part of me that would really get a kick out of that. And also it's a more interesting story as well.
Yeah, I suppose. I think that's fair. I think it's, as a piece of cinema, I guess its biggest failing is it is a little bit bland. It's not really one thing or another. It's trying to hit that middle road
Yeah.
a little bit too much. Because you're right, there's a version of that movie, there's a really interesting version of that movie where actually the response from Anna is really negative
Yeah.
to it, and go, why are you trying to manipulate me? What is all of this? And kind of almost like a commentary on toxic relationships,
Yeah.
and manipulation and gaslighting and control and all of those things. Or, like you say, something that just goes, yeah, we are going to have so much manipulation, so much non-consensual control, and it's going to be great.
Yeah. Like, it's because of how sort of inexperienced she is, it feels like he probably could quite easily get in her head, sort of wear her down and bully her into agreeing to things. Tell her that the contract is legally binding, because we know that a BDSM contract isn't legally binding, but she knows nothing about BDSM.
She does.
And he's a billionaire. She's probably going to believe him that once she signed it, she can't get out of it.
Yeah.
And you turn it into an erotic horror.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, immediately so much better.
Yeah.
And not just because I'm a sick freak, okay? Like, it would be a more interesting story.
It would be a better story, yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. One tiny little detail in all of this, which I found really interesting, was Christian Grey's aversion to being touched.
Yeah.
So there's something in the contract about, no physical touch.
Yeah.
And I couldn't quite decide whether that idea of him not wanting to be touched was just a dom cliche, or in some ways actually oddly relatable, like personally.
Yeah.
Because I have a thing where, this is me doing my I fuck hard kind of bit. My preference in sex is to be in the driving seat.
Yeah.
So I am the one doing the do sort of thing. That's my preference, and I struggle a little bit sometimes with kind of receiving sexual affection.
Yeah.
I suppose, whether that's somebody going down on me or kind of stroking me and stuff like that, it can sometimes feel a little bit strange.
And not even just like the direct stuff, like stuff involving your dick. Like, I've not yet sussed out any place on your body that seems to function as an erogenous zone.
Yeah.
Like, if I sort of am kissing you anywhere,
yeah,
you're not objecting to it, but it does not increase my chances of getting sex.
No, it doesn't, and it's such a strange thing. You are not the first person to notice that.
Yeah.
I don't get aroused by those kind of touches and kisses on the neck and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not that I object to them.
No.
Which I think is the point of difference with Christian Grey in this, is that he seems to actively object.
Yeah, he doesn't want her to do any of that.
But it doesn't really work for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's such a small detail in the movie, which I feel like if it's not returned to in future movies when we watch them, will be a missed opportunity, because again, there's something there about why, isn't there? There's something there about why.
And I don't remember if it's returned to. If it is, I suspect it's going to be because he's traumatized.
Yeah.
And it's a problem to fix, which again is a missed opportunity to examine how dominance and submission can affect really fundamental parts of your sexuality and how you interact with other people.
Yeah.
Because I think the way that he's very rigid about it would probably feel quite limiting to me, at least in a relationship. There probably are some submissives who would really thrive on that sort of inequality of a dominant who can touch them anywhere they like, any way they like.
Yeah.
But you can't touch them. Like, there is something hot in that, but I'm quite a touchy person, so I can touch you, but also I like that because touch doesn't do a lot for you. It almost like choreographs how we have sex. Mm-hmm. That a lot of the things that you would expect in vanilla sort of foreplay in like the foreplay stage don't happen, or they happen in a very unequal way. Yeah. And I like that because whatever we're doing, you see the power exchange in it, you see the difference in how we touch each other. Yeah. Which is really cool and really interesting. Yeah. And like there was something there they could have explored in a more interesting way, like we keep saying.
You do see little bits of that. There is that kind of cliched softening of the stoic dom. Yeah. As the movie progresses a little bit. Yeah. But not tons of it. But I also feel like this part of the movie where they have the business meeting about the contract, there's a shift from this point from me about the standards of his behaviour. Yeah. Kind of really go downhill a little bit. So he's done some stalkerish and morally questionable things so far, but kind of throughout a lot of the rest of the movie, there's this repeated thing for me of him acting like she signed the contract when she hasn't. And that's the bit of this movie that I do have as a person with some experience in kink and BDSM and DS relationships. This is the bit that I have a real issue with. Is there's a scene in the movie where she does something wrong. I can't even remember what.
She rolls her eyes at him.
She rolls her eyes at him, and he gives her a punishment.
Yeah.
For that, and I'm like, why? She hasn't broken any rules. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she hasn't signed it. She hasn't agreed to the contract, so you have no right to do that. And also, there's the funny part of it is a fundamental misunderstanding of how punishment works, because he dishes out the punishment and then asks if she wants more.
Yeah.
You're like, that's not how that's supposed to work, my friend.
No.
No. Punishment with a P.
Yes.
That's not how that works.
Punishment.
Punishment, however, I can absolutely see what that is.
And that's such a common misunderstanding. It's a question I get a lot on my TikTok. Anytime I talk about rules and punishments, people are like, "Oh, do you ever break the rules to get punished on purpose?" And it's like, no, because the punishments are fucking awful.
Yeah, because they're horrible.
No one enjoys that. But I will be cheeky to get spanked. That's a whole different genre of behaviour.
Yeah.
But if he's using spanking as a punishment, which he does, then he shouldn't be asking her if she's having a good time.
Yeah. Do you want more of it? It's like, well,
yeah.
No.
And also in that scene, she doesn't answer that question. She just sort of sits there buffering because she's just been spanked for the first time and her brain's switched off, which is relatable. But she literally doesn't answer, and then he keeps hitting her.
And he does it again.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
I think that comes around the same point as well, that she gets back into her flat and discovers that he has stolen and sold her car.
Yes.
He's bought her a new car, and she's initially like, "Oh, that's very generous and very nice." And then she's like, "Where's my car?" So he's like, "It's gone."
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Which is further deranged behaviour.
To be sold by his driver / bodyguard.
Yes.
The only man I think he has on his team.
Yes.
Is the man who drives the car.
Yeah.
There's a subtle misogynistic message about women's driving skills in there somewhere. I feel.
Feels like it might be.
But yeah, that's kind of a bit of a theme in the remainder of the movie about he's treating her like they're in a dynamic in it under that contract when actually she's not.
Yeah, she's the last thing that we hear her say about the contract was that she'll think about it after that negotiation scene.
Yeah.
And then I think she brings it up again later, and we are sort of going non-linear with this. At one point, they have a big sort of discussion about things, and she mentions the contract, and he says the contract is irrelevant. And she goes, "So the rules don't apply?" And he goes, "No, the rules apply."
Yeah.
"So you're not going to punish me?" And he goes, "No, I will punish you." And it's like,
yeah.
That's not how that works. If you're not agreeing to the contract.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you can have a dynamic without a contract, but then you need to go back to negotiation and talk about that.
Yeah.
Because right now you have nothing negotiated and you're just punishing her.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. It's definitely a pattern of his overstepping behaviour getting worse and worse. He turns up when she's having drinks with her mother.
Yeah.
Well, first he has a massive go at her for going to see her mother. Then he turns up unannounced and stalks her in the restaurant and then appears at their table.
Yeah.
He's just generally a prick. He tries to finger her under the table at his parents' house, which is wild.
Yes. And she rebuffs him.
Yes.
Quite right. She should. Yeah, she is very firm about that, which is good for her.
Yeah. Just baffling in front of his entire family.
So yeah, there's a decline in the standard of Christian's behaviour.
Yes.
Throughout the rest of the movie.
I was just looking at what we haven't talked about already in this movie, and there's one of my notes that just says, "Talking is for the vanillas. Real doms only brood and play sad piano."
Yeah, because there's a little bit of that as well, isn't there? There's a few conversations in the latter part of this movie where she is trying to get him to communicate.
Yeah.
And he just won't.
Yeah. I think I remember the bit that I wrote that note about. He is literally sitting in the dark, playing his piano, looking sad.
Yeah.
And she asks him to talk, and he pretty much says, "That's not a thing I do, that's for normal people." And it's like,
yeah.
No, it isn't. That is for all the people.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a recurring thing where the stuff that she's asking for from him, a lot of the time she's not asking him to just give up all the kink stuff. You can tell at times she struggles with it and doesn't really get it and is trying to figure out whether or not that's for her. But what she wants from him isn't to necessarily throw all that out the window. It's that she wants to talk to him like a regular human being.
Yeah.
And and sleep in the same bed is something that she brings up a lot, and it's like he's clearly got some baggage around that, and people are allowed their boundaries and their preferences and for them to do relationships the way they do them. But it's that thing where he's expecting her to completely change everything she wants in a relationship, and he's not willing to make any concessions on those things.
No,
Which is infuriating.
Deeply, deeply infuriating. But again, that she is trying to communicate with him. She is asking questions. She continues to ask questions about the contract and ask questions about him.
Yeah.
He does eventually crack and reveals a little bit more about his childhood.
Yeah.
So he was adopted. I guess there's potentially a little bit of trauma in this. So he talks about kind of how his mother was a crack addict and a prostitute. And I couldn't help but feel that was a little bit judgy.
Yeah.
Like the language was a little bit judgy. I suppose if they're his words, I suppose he might not have a positive view of his mother, I suppose. But yeah, it felt a little bit on the nose.
Yeah, it felt like such a sort of stereotypical. You wanna sort of portray his birth family as neglectful and potentially abusive, strongly implied to be abusive at that stage of the conversation. Like, why are you just using these sort of categories of human as a way to set that up? Like, there are ways to sort of show that a character had a bad childhood without going, and there was drug addiction and sex work in the family. Like, it's lazy. It's a lazy shortcut.
That's exactly what I was grasping for. It's lazy exposition, I suppose. Oh yeah, no wonder he's traumatized. And I think it's at this point, again, one of my favorite lines in the movie, where Anna's stepdad, I think, says gazpacho is salsa. and that's the kind of spicy take that I enjoy in a movie. Nothing to do with the plot, nothing to do with what we're talking about. I just really enjoyed that really hot take that gazpacho is basically a big bowl of salsa.
Yeah, I feel like he is right and he should say it.
Yeah, I think more people should say it. Gazpacho is weird.
Yeah.
I can't get my head around gazpacho.
No. I don't want any soup to be cold.
No.
It's not what I'm going to the soup for.
No. It's not going to meet your needs, is it?
No.
A cold bowl of soup.
I feel like there's a point where we're recording every time about the hour and a half mark where we just start saying stuff. We just start saying stupid stuff.
That is true.
It's not what I'm going to the soup for.
No. So yeah, there's this little period in the movie where he's controlling and stalkerish and a bit weird.
Yeah, and in an escalating way. Like, he's been stalkery from day one, but taking it to another level.
So the result of that is she kind of says, "Why do you want to hurt me?" And he says he's 50 shades of fucked up. And then she asks to see his worst.
Yeah, next we are at the end of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have, will come as a great relief to everyone who's ever had to sit through this movie. We are coming to the end of it.
Hurrah!
That was overly harsh of the movie. That was overly harsh. I did quite enjoy it in places, but it was coming to the point where we were probably ready to wrap things up.
Yeah. This is the climax of the movie where Anna asks Christian to show her his worst.
Yeah. And this is the point where I burst out laughing.
You did laugh very loud at this.
Because she says if he wants to punish her, she needs to know how bad it can get. She needs to experience the absolute worst version of it.
Yeah.
She asks him to do that. He asks if she's sure. They go off into the playroom. And then his line is, "I'm going to hit you 6 times."
Yeah.
And like, I get it. He hits her really hard, and out of the stuff he's got in his playroom, that leather strap probably isn't particularly nice to be hit with. But 6 times, that's the worst she can ever experience. She's with this guy for 20 years and they're doing all this kinky stuff, and he obviously has some really strong need to punish her at times.
Yeah.
The worst she can expect from him is 6 hits.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Some questions about that.
Yeah.
I suppose. There is a little bit of me that thought, yeah, I can see why he's doing that. That version of dominance and submissives where it's not really the dominants who are the unhinged ones. It's the submissives who are the, hit me with your car.
Hit me with your car, yeah.
kind of thing. So I did have a little bit of, I had slightly more sympathy with Christian in that scenario. This early in a relationship, if I really hit you as hard as I can and as much as I can, I am definitely going to scare you off.
Yeah.
And it turns out that he does anyway.
Yeah.
Which I guess I have some complicated feelings about.
Yeah. I put in my notes that this is arguably the most consensual scene in the movie, and it's the one where she'll walk out on him at the end of it.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of a contradiction to me, but also considering that she has no previous knowledge or experience of BDSM, and she's just been hit really hard.
Yeah.
You can also see why she would freak out and be like, no, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
I don't think necessarily anyone's done anything wrong in that scene.
Yeah.
She's asked for it. He's been very clear that it's not going to be pleasant.
Yeah.
She's at no point used her safe word, which she's had the option to do throughout.
Yeah.
He probably has dialed it back a bit from what actually his worst would look like.
Yeah.
Benefit of the doubt that that's not just lazy writing, but she's realised that it's too much for her and wants to leave. That's fair.
Yeah, that's why I say I have kind of complicated feelings about it, because you're right, it is the most overtly consensual thing that happens in the entire movie. He checks in on a number of times before it happens to say, Are you sure this is what you want? Are you sure this is what you want? Sort of thing. And she gets what she agreed to.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that she can't have a negative reaction to it. That is a perfectly valid response to being hit as hard as somebody can. Let's go, don't fucking do that again.
Yeah.
I think the complication for me is, I suppose, there is something about communication. That's the thing that's missing there, is at some point there has to be a conversation about what happened.
Yeah.
Or there should be a conversation about what happened. And she's quite disgusted by him.
Yeah.
At that point, which I can't quite reconcile in my head.
No, because that seemed to come out of nowhere, I guess, because of the limitation of the movie not giving us her internal dialogue.
Yeah.
We haven't seen if there's been that sort of gradually building disgust over time. If that's sort of been a consequence of her discomfort.
Yeah.
But it seemed like she didn't really understand why he wanted to do the things that he wanted to do to her. She wasn't sure if she wanted them or could handle them.
Yeah.
And she was upset that he wasn't willing to sort of meet her with more the type of relationship she wanted. But it did seem surprising that she was suddenly absolutely horrified by him, as if he'd revealed some much darker side to him than she'd seen already.
Yeah.
But he's been hitting her for most of the movie, sometimes in ways that she liked, sometimes in ways she was a bit unsure on.
Yeah, yeah.
But she knew what he did. This was just a harder version of that.
Yeah.
It did seem like the level of shock didn't seem really proportionate.
Yeah.
Because it's not like he'd revealed something completely new.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Totally understand why she'd be like, nah, don't want any of that.
Yeah.
At all. It was just the way in which that played out, I suppose, was a little bit surprising to me. And then she leaves and the movie ends.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Just like that.
And she says, no, thank you. I'm off. And then leaves.
Because there are sequels.
But it was a really abrupt end to it.
Yeah.
I was like, is that it?
Yeah.
What happens? I don't really care what happens. I can't believe I'm going to have to watch the other two movies.
I know.
So yeah, I wasn't as offended by it as a movie as I thought I might be.
Yeah.
I think that there is some questionable behaviour throughout that would quite rightly wave some red flags for anybody within the kink and the BDSM community. But that wasn't its target audience.
No, and I don't have an issue with any part of it really as a fantasy. I think if I'm criticising the quality of it, I will say that I feel like that's a little bland. And like I was saying before, it would be better if it had either committed to being proper BDSM or committed to being proper abuse.
Yeah.
In either case, I think it would have been more interesting to me. But it was clearly interesting to a lot of people because it made a hell of a lot of money and sold a lot of copies, and the movie got loads of money as well. People liked it.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting as well to think about what the impact of it has been, because at the time it blew up, a lot of people were seeing it as being a negative impact. You had people within the BDSM community who were saying this is bad representation. You had people who are critical of BDSM anyway saying this is bringing it more into the light. So no one from either side liked it. Yeah. Then you had a lot of people getting concerned that it was promoting violence against women, domestic violence, toxic relationships, all of that.
Yeah.
Without ever really acknowledging like how pervasive that is in romance, whether you love it or hate it. Like that's not an uncommon thing to find.
Yeah.
Because what people like in a fantasy and what they actually like in a partner are sometimes very different
Very
things.
different things, yeah.
Like the stuff that I like in fantasy is considerably worse than anything that you do to me.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't like it in real life, but as a fantasy, it's fine. So yeah, I think a lot of nuance got lost in that conversation. There were some measurably negative impacts. So when I was looking up some stuff before we watched the movie, there was a significant increase in admissions to A&E for BDSM-related injuries following the release of the book.
Right.
That is a negative impact.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know if necessarily we can hold authors of erotica to account for that, though, because I think what that represents to me more is a really severe lack of easily accessible education around BDSM.
Yeah.
Because if I'd never heard of BDSM before, and then I'd read 50 Shades or watched 50 Shades or some other smutty book or movie, and I thought, that sounds fun, I want to try it. My first thing would be to Google that and try to find more information.
Yeah.
And if that information is hard to find, or if people are embarrassed about that being in their internet search history, it's became very socially acceptable to read 50 Shades, but probably a bit less socially acceptable still to Google, like, how to do bondage safely.
Yeah.
That's a bigger step.
Yeah.
So people were trying things impulsively without doing any research other than what they'd read in the book. A lot of the smut that I read, there are disclaimers in the front of it saying, if you find a man who treats you like this, run.
Yeah.
The BDSM in this book doesn't use safe words, doesn't have negotiation, and isn't how you should practice it. Things like that.
Yeah.
And I think that is a really good approach to take. But even that won't stop people doing the wrong thing if they don't know how to do it right.
Yeah.
So the way that we combat that kind of negative impact is through making sure that education is accessible, that people are combating shame and stigma around this stuff so that they can ask people and talk to people and go and find the information out. I don't think moral panics over some mediocre smut is gonna solve the problem.
No, I think you're right. And I think one of the justified criticisms of the movie is that it is not a great example of how consent and negotiation work in BDSM and DS dynamics that feature in it. The problem with that is that if it did accurately portray how that worked, it'd be a really fucking boring movie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's not the purpose of entertainment. It's not the purpose of blockbuster movies, which 50 Shades of Grey was.
Yeah.
It is to entertain. So you're always going to get a surface level attention paid to anything in that kind of genre of movie, I suppose. So although the criticisms of it, some of them are perfectly valid, that's not the solution. Isn't to make movies that include it.
Yeah.
Because people would watch them.
No, probably the only people who would watch them would be people who are really seriously into BDSM and want to nerd out over the accuracy of it. We would probably really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't make the money that 50 Shades.
Yeah. That statistic about A&E admissions is wild, and I don't think any movie in the world could have fixed that. I think that is just stupidity on the part of people, being brutally honest about.
It is, but I don't think people are necessarily entirely to blame for the situation that has led to them making those choices. Because I think we're all raised in this toxic shame where you're not supposed to ask questions or think too hard about how you're intimate. We're all kind of used to people sort of muddling through from things they saw in porn, gossip they heard on the schoolyard when they were kids, like half bits of knowledge, lots of trial and error. Like, that's how a lot of sex works. And you can muddle through well enough if all you're doing is having sex with that approach. Once you start doing BDSM, that becomes dangerous rather than just unskilled. If people have never really thought about having those serious conversations with their partner, doing proper research, going onto websites like FetLife and stuff, you feel like you're doing something dodgy when you go into that world for the first time. It feels like it intensifies the shame more because it makes it real. And I think that's a hard barrier for people to overcome.
Yeah.
And people don't know what they don't know. If the only knowledge they have about a kink has come from erotica, where nothing bad happened to the characters who were doing it, and no one's ever told them that thing is really dangerous, how are they going to know they need to Google to find out if it's dangerous? It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's some stuff that's probably common sense, like strangulation, is dangerous.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the injuries from people who'd read 50 Shades were things like rope bondage, which looks very tame a lot of the time. It looks pretty safe. And we obviously know, because we know people who take rope really seriously, that it's actually, it would be considered edge play by most people. It's very, very high likelihood, if you're seriously into rope and do it regularly enough, at some point you're going to get nerve damage.
Yeah.
I don't think that's common knowledge outside the kink world. So I think it's things like that. Yes, people should do research before doing things, but I don't think the problem is as simple as this book is a problem, and I don't think the problem is as simple as these people are stupid. I think the problem is way, way bigger than either of those and a lot harder to fix.
Yeah, I get that. I just don't understand why you wouldn't put that effort in if you wanted to try it.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, maybe that's just my perspective as somebody who is into it and into the community. Of why would you not do that?
Yeah.
A little bit of learning to educate yourself about how you do these.
Definitely smarter approach.
Yeah.
And the flip side of the impact of 50 Shades is that along with the people who were trying things and unfortunately ending up in A&E and having a terrible time, there were people who 50 Shades became their jumping off point to enter and fully engage with the kink community.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are part of the kink community now who have learned through classes and they have had mentors and they have explored relationships at a safe and healthy pace and they've learned about negotiation, they've learned all of this stuff. Whose first exposure to it was reading or watching 50 Shades.
Yeah.
Going, wait, like, sex could be a bit more interesting, couldn't it?
Yeah.
And that's awesome. It's brought kink into the public eye a lot more than I think anything else has for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Maybe ever.
Yeah. I think so. There is a long way to go, isn't there? But it is definitely represented a bit of a watershed of, what was acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah. I found it's a good point of reference for talking to people about kink as well. There's been times where people have asked sort of what my collar means, or I've mentioned something in passing about my relationship and they've wanted to understand better and sort of said, like, so what is this thing that you do?
Yeah.
I say, oh, it's BDSM, like I'm in a DS relationship, and they sort of look at me buffering.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like 50 Shades, and they go, my auntie read that. She loved it.
Yeah.
Smutty books. They hit each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not accurate. It doesn't tell people a lot about how I actually do DS, but it gives them a point of reference where we can then have a conversation because they understand at least kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I found that really useful a lot since I've needed to talk about kink to random people.
Yeah.
It's like that, but way weirder.
But yeah, but more.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing on the flip side of that, I suppose. Sometimes within the kink community, that group of people who are accessing BDSM and kink through things like 50 Shades are kind of dismissed a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of referred to as tourists or kind of the 50 Shades crew in a dismissive way.
Yeah.
And I think part of that will be about how that group of people behave in those spaces.
Yeah.
That kind of assumption that, you're kinky, so you must be easy.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. I'm here for kinky sex, and you all do kinky sex with everybody, don't you? Because that's what you do. But I do think it's a little bit dismissive sometimes.
It's a bit of a sort of broad strokes against a very large group of people.
Yeah.
You know what it reminds me of as well is the people who are still writing think pieces now about millennials, talking about us as if we're teenagers.
Yeah.
When millennials are between what, like 28 and 45 now, something like that. People talking about the tourists and the visitors from 50 Shades. It's like, came out over a decade ago.
Yeah.
If they're still here, they're not tourists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And, I suppose, there's always that kind of turnover of thing. People watch 50 Shades for the first time. I've watched it for the first time and I'm 46 years old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there is sometimes a lack of tolerance to those people who are new to the scene, inexperienced, which I think is a little bit sad sometimes. Like I say, some of it is driven by the behaviour of those people. If you come into it acting like a twat, then you're going to get treated like a twat, sort of thing. But I don't think that's universal. So it's that weird sort of thing where we've got that opportunity that 50 Shades has given us to kind of bring the stuff that we do a little bit more into the light in a positive way. And the way that we respond to that is to dismiss them.
Yeah.
Which I think is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I think people in the kink community can often be very fearful of visibility for understandable reasons because a lot of what we do falls into a legal grey area. A lot of people will face rejection from families, potentially losing their jobs, potential risks of things like custody of their children and stuff like that if they're outed. Like, our privacy is important, our spaces that are for us are important, but also no group has ever gained more rights by being more hidden.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. The only way that we are going to get more sort of protection under the law, more freedom to do the things that we do, more protection when it goes wrong as well, because if people are afraid of bringing any part of the kink community into contact with the police or social services or any kind of authority, then they won't go for help when they need it. Having this fear of visibility, I think, sometimes harms us and sometimes helps us, and it can be very hard to figure out where on that line you fall. I think a lot of the backlash against 50 Shades, whether people were consciously aware of it or not, was that fear of the sudden hypervisibility that we had as a result. And it's, I think, where some of the pushback comes against people like me who are really open with kink, where I've had some level of hostility from people within the kink community about that before, where they want me to be closeted because they're afraid that I will out them by association somehow, or that I will draw attention that will end up harming others. And it's a really tricky balance to get right, where you need to protect other people's privacy, but also what feels right for you. I don't think visibility is inherently a good or a bad thing. I think it's a tool, and I think that it's better for us to be the ones using it than someone else be the one wielding it against us.
Yeah, what a very deep way to end the most random movie review anyone has ever listened to.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Don't Scare the Newbies.
You can support us on Patreon for bonus content, and head to kirizal.com for my blog and links to everywhere else that you can follow me. See you next time.